Chapter 1. Setting Sail. The young boy and his father boarded the boat for their fishing trip as the sun was just beginning to rise. The youngster, who had never gone fishing with his father before, could hardly contain his excitement. They had been preparing for this trip for weeks, and now they were actually leaving. The boy was a little uneasy as the boat rocked back and forth in the water because it was larger than he had anticipated. But when his father patted him on the shoulder and grinned at him, the boy suddenly felt braver. They settled into a spot on the boat and prepared for the trip. The boy observed as they departed the harbor as the shoreline gradually grew farther away. He had a feeling of freedom and adventure, as though they were about to embark on an exciting new journey. His nostrils were filled with the salty scent of the ocean, and he immediately realized that this would be a trip he would never forget. Chapter 2. Rough Seas. As they made their way out to sea, the wind picked up and the waves got rougher. The boy began to feel a little queasy as the boat began to rock back and forth. When his father saw, he gave him a comforting smile. "Son, don't worry. Just a little bit rough around here," said he. "No problem, I say." But as the boat rocked more violently, the boy couldn't help but feel a little scared. He struggled to maintain his balance while firmly grasping the railing. The boy became seasick as the waves got even rougher. It was futile for him to keep his breakfast down as he leaned over the side of the boat. Up until there was nothing left in his stomach, he heaved and gagged. When his father noticed how sick he was, he promptly brought him a bucket to throw up in. He gave him a gentle back rub and reassured him that feeling this way on a boat was normal. The boy felt ashamed and embarrassed about being so ill, but his father reassured him that everything would be fine. Instead of continuing to fish, they just sat down and relaxed while they waited for their queasy feelings to pass. The boy eventually began to feel better. While they were just enjoying each other's company, his father offered him some water and snacks. Even though they hadn't yet caught any fish, the boy understood that the trip itself had already been worthwhile because of the time he had spent with his father. Chapter 3. Fishing Mishaps. The boy and his father decided it was time to try their luck at fishing once more as the sea began to calm down. They patiently waited while keeping an eye out for any bite signs. After casting their lines into the water, everything seemed to be going according to plan at first. The boy felt a tug as he was reeling in his line, and as a result, his line and his father's became entangled. It took them some time to untangle the lines and resume their fishing, even though they both laughed at the silly mistake. The boy then became preoccupied with daydreaming as they waited for another bite. His father pointed out the fact that his line had become slack before he noticed it himself. He attempted to reel it in but discovered that it was entangled in some seaweed. As his son struggled to remove the seaweed from his line, his father grinned. They encountered a few more hiccups as the day went on. They had to return to land to get more bait after dropping their original piece into the water. They had to carefully free a seagull they had unintentionally hooked. And at one point, they both mistakenly believed they had landed a large fish only to discover they had snagged a parsing jellyfish. They never lost their humor despite all the setbacks. They continued to try while making fun of one another's errors. Along with fishing, they also discussed their favorite movies and sports teams. They both felt like they were having the time of their lives, despite the fact that they hadn't yet caught anything. Chapter 4. A Stroke of Luck. The boy and his father were prepared to call it a day as the sun began to set. Even though they didn't catch anything worth keeping, they thought the adventure had been fantastic. The boy felt a sudden tug on his line just as they were about to reel in their lines and return to land. With all of his strength, he pulled on it, and something substantial pulled away. He yelled, "Hey, Dad, I think I caught something," with excitement pounding through him. To assist him in reeling in the catch, his father hurried over. After some difficulty, they were able to raise it onto the boat. They were shocked and delighted to discover that it was the biggest fish they had ever seen. They gave each other high fives and cheered, as though they had just won the lottery. They captured images of the fish while admiring its size. They discussed all the things they would do with their catch as they made their way back to shore. For dinner, they would prepare it and serve it to the rest of the family. They would share tales about their fishing excursion, including how they nearly caught nothing but ultimately caught the biggest fish of them all. The young man thought he had just had the best day of his life. His father was beaming down at him as he looked up at him. He thanked his father for taking him fishing. "The best adventure I've ever had was this one," his father replied, ruffling his son's hair. "You can, kid, anytime." Chapter 5. Laughter and Memories. The boy and his father cleaned and filleted their fish back on land while having fun the entire time. They discussed all the mishaps they had encountered throughout the day and how, in the end, they were able to land the biggest fish. The boy's mother and siblings joined in the fun as they cooked the fish for dinner. They made fun of the boy's seasickness while also applauding his catch of such a large fish. They exchanged tales and recollections of past family outings over dinner. When they went camping, a raccoon stole their food, and they laughed about it. They also chuckled about the time they visited an amusement park and got stuck on a roller coaster. The boy was thankful for his loving family, and in particular for a father who would take him on such a memorable fishing trip. He came to understand that the important thing was spending time with his friends and creating memories, not just catching big fish. They all gathered around a campfire as the night wore on to roast marshmallows and share ghost stories. The child curled up next to his father, feeling secure and content. He imagined all the adventures they would have in the future as he dozed off, and he was confident that they would always be able to laugh and remember things together. Chapter 6. Return to Shore. The boy and his father got up early the following morning to pack their belongings and bid the sea farewell. Even though it was a long drive home, they didn't mind. They were still soaking up the positive effects of their fishing trip. They discussed all the things they wanted to do when they got home as they traveled down the winding coastal road. The young boy was eager to share pictures of the enormous fish they had caught with his siblings, and his father was eager to start thinking about their upcoming trip. The boy's father surprised him by ordering pancakes with whipped cream and strawberries when they stopped at a diner for breakfast. As they adhered to their breakfast, they both laughed as they recalled the amusing incidents from their fishing trip. They eventually returned home. As his father unloaded the equipment from the car, the boy hurried inside to show his family the photos of their catch. The boy felt content as they sat in the living room, and the rest of the family listened to them talk about their adventure. He came to the conclusion that spending time with his father and creating lifelong memories was more important than actually landing the big fish. The boy knew he would always remember that day as one of the best of his life as they all laughed and talked about their sea fishing adventure.